How's the economy doing? How are things going that affect your money? Let's ask E.J. Antoni. Keep it going for E.J. Antoni from the Heritage Foundation. Thank you very much. Welcome back.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for having me.
I know the crowd's a little excited today. We've all been stuck inside because of the weather here. So let's jump right into the economy. Is there an economic announcement coming before the trip that Donald Trump has taken to the Middle East? He's like, I have a very big, very important, huge announcement. It's going to be big. It's going to be magnificent, believe me. But I don't know what this is about. Do you have any insight on that? Because my spidey sense says it may be economic.
I honestly, from even when I talk to all my contacts, whether they're on the Hill, in the administration, whatever the case may be, folks literally have absolutely no idea what this is about or in what this is in regards to. So we are just all basically as much on pins and needles as you are. We literally just have no idea where this is going. I mean, it's kind of par for the course, quite frankly, with this administration, where everything is developing, not just day by day, but hour by hour, sometimes minute by minute. I will say the last I talked to folks in the Treasury, which was just a day or two ago, we are getting very, very close to having some trade deals done with major partners like India, for example. So that's all very, very good news.
Gold jumped up to a new record high today. Is there any cause for concern on that front?
Well, absolutely, because people are increasingly looking for a safe haven. They're looking for a safe haven in terms of a store of value. They're not confident that the economy is going to keep trucking along, so they're flocking to gold. But they're also worried about future inflation. They're worried about a lot of inflation, I guess you could say, finally getting priced in. In other words, just because things were done a year or even 2 years ago that were inflationary doesn't mean the full impact of those policies has actually worked its way through the market. And so it wasn't until, for example, Biden had already left office that we saw gold continue to hit new high after new high, despite the fact that a lot of the reason for that, those increases, were the fact that he spent trillions of dollars we didn't have.
One of the big traders from Goldman Sachs, E.J. Antoni, said that he's moving from neutral to bullish on the stock market. How can he possibly know if this is the bottom until the tariff deals get worked out?
Well, that's why we call these things a bear trap, because people start thinking, all right, this has got to be the bottom, and it's only up from here. Meanwhile, these upswings are oftentimes short coverings or temporary changes in position. People, in other words, thinking it's the bottom, thinking we're going to go back up, but then all of a sudden we turn back down. Most infamously, this happened in 1930 after the stock market had crashed in 29. It ended up gaining back most of its lost ground, so that if you had bought stocks in the beginning of 1929, by the beginning of 1930, you were essentially flat on the year, despite the giant drop in October. So people started buying back in. And then, of course, after the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act was signed in June of 1930, everything really went south.
Oh, wow. So we had some herky-jerky movements in the market. A whole bunch of tariffs were added on. That doesn't sound familiar at all.
No, not at all, right? And see, this is part of the problem where, the markets were doing okay before these tariffs were announced on April 2nd, but then everything fell off a cliff because we were promised over and over again that these tariffs weren't going to look anything like what we saw in the 1930s. And in fact, they very much resemble them. These are actually the largest tariffs since the Great Depression. So there's a reason why markets have been so concerned. Of course, President Trump is banking on other nations not willing to go toe-to-toe with the U.S. in a trade war, and them coming to the negotiating table so that we never actually have to implement these tariffs. Because if we do, it would be a hell of a lot of economic pain.
E.J. Antoni, Heritage Foundation. I just asked you about gold getting to an all-time high. On the other side of the chart, we have oil sinking below $60 a barrel. And while that's good for us at the pump, down here in Texas, that kind of makes us nervous. Is oil too cheap?
Oh, goodness. For a lot of our producers, it is right now. And you have to ask, okay, how can we make these markets viable for these producers? In other words, we want consumers to have very cheap energy, but we also want our great energy producers to make money. Well, you have to essentially cut the regulatory burden, and you have to cut the tax burden on those folks so that, a well that's profitable at, let's say, $70 a barrel becomes profitable at $40 a barrel. That's on the federal government. Now, in some instances, yes, it's on the state government. New York State, for example, makes it impossible, literally, to get anything out of the ground in terms of horizontal drilling. But still, even if you just want to look at the national level, there is a lot of ground to be made up there. There are a lot of things we can do to help our drillers, to help our energy producers bring product to market at a lower price.
Well, EJ Antonio, I appreciate your time again. When you were on last time, you were right. I saw you on Fox Business like 45 minutes later. So I'm honored you spent some time with us. Thank you, sir.
I'll be on in about 15 minutes or so.
All right. You're going to be on with Kudlow again? Tell him I said hi. I'm a big fan.
I certainly will, sir.
All right. There's just some rando in Dallas who loves your work, Larry. Okay, thank you. Your thoughts on the economy? Do you trust this rebound? Do you trust this rebound? Because the markets, they did fall about almost 20% across the board there. We've recovered more than half of that. Now, is this going to be for real? Are we about to start breaking new records, or are we about to start on a downturn? I don't think anybody really knows, but it's fun to talk about. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I think it's going to be on the way up, but I do have to throw in some caveats there. I'll explain after we talk to Alan in Athens. You're next up on WBAP. What do you think, Alan?
Well, I'm just kind of wondering. So if I got 3 oil wells on my location on my property, why do I got to throw that into the global thing? Why every ounce of oil that we pump out of our ground? Why do we have to give? Why do we got to go with the global price? That's our oil. We don't have to. I mean, who started that? Where we got to throw it in the pot for everybody.
No one actually started that. It's just an inherent law of economics, and I don't mean like of Austrian economics. It's just a law of economics. Period. We're in anything where a good can cross borders. We're in a global market on it, so we're not in a global market.
Why are we in the global? Why don't we keep all our oil for us to help everybody else?
Well, because there's a couple of things. Either we don't make enough oil on a daily basis to satisfy our needs, and so we have to buy it from somewhere, Canada, Mexico, who cares? Well, or we make too much, and so you can only store so much, so we're going to sell the excess on the market to somebody else.
Okay, so we need to get our strategic oil supply back up, so all our extras need to go into that and tell everybody else until we get ours back up. We're not selling jack.
Well, it doesn't matter if we sell jack or not. If we are, the price isn't really going to be affected. Period. Point blank. Because even if we didn't have enough, and you got to turn around and you got to buy it from somewhere else, are you going to buy it from the most expensive person or from the least expensive person? The least expensive. All other things being equal, and so the price is going to be fixed across the entire planet. If you want to be in the market to buy or sell oil, you have to go in at the price that everyone else is agreeing to.
But if we buy, why are we buying oil if we produce enough that we're selling it? But our gas prices are up.
Well, so we did that for a brief time, and I'm glad you're asking this question because we didn't have answers to this for all of our life until a small window of opportunity during Trump 1.0, during his first term. Do you remember when oil went negative for a month? And
yes.
Okay, so your actual hypothetical actually happened about 5 years ago. We made so much oil that we covered all of our use and we had excess. And so then we started storing it all. And then all of the storage facilities in America, most of which are in Cushing, Oklahoma, for some reason, that's just where a bunch of pipelines intersect.
Correct.
And when Cushing was full, then we had to put it in oil tankers and just float them offshore a little bit because we had nowhere else to put it. And then when another tanker came into the United States, not only did we have nowhere to put it, we didn't have any more oil tankers to offload it onto, and we really didn't have a place for you guys to spend a long time hanging out. So they paid someone to take that oil off of their hands. So that's what happens is
okay. So Biden gave all our oil away, or he sold it all off, and it's in his checking account in Hunter Biden's laptop.
No.
Anyway, I think every person in the United States should have a 1,000-gallon storage tank, and we'll put oil behind your house.
What advantage would that be?
We don't. Well, that way if we need it, we can go get oil from us. We don't have to go to Saudi Arabia or Venezuela or.
Look, I have no problem buying oil from overseas if we can't make enough to satisfy our own wishes. And you know what? Most countries on Earth don't have the privilege that we have of even trying to be energy independent. You know, France doesn't have oil. Japan doesn't have oil. And so, go ahead.
Okay. So we need to build more swimming pools to keep oil in.
Go ahead. Look, there's a place for that. If you're an entrepreneur who's looking to make money, the oil storage business can be lucrative if you do it right. So if you see an opening in the marketplace, go knock it out. Go make that money for us.
Correct. I mean, I understand that part. I'm just wondering if we got so much that we got to sell it, why are we buying it from anybody?
There's still going to be a buy in and sell mechanism. Even if we make enough that covers all of us, for some reason, we're still going to be importing it from somewhere because someone didn't want the West Texas Intermediate crude. They wanted the light sweet crude because they're going to crack it in these ethylene domes and they're going to make some specific type of plastic or whatever. So it's a market, and that's not a bad thing. We don't need to be 100% independent in all of our important commodities. What you're describing is an economic phenomenon called autarky. AUT. I'm about out of time. So there's a good Wikipedia page on that. Autarky.
I'm just saying, if we got enough oil, we shouldn't have to buy it, and we shouldn't have to share it. It's ours. We get to keep it.
You're more right than you think. Now you're being pretty reductive and simple with it, but you're right. There's no excuse for us to not have a surplus of oil and for us having the problem of we're running out of places to put it. That was nice when it happened 6 years ago or 5 years ago or whenever that was. But we can't just shut ourselves off and say, well, we're not going to buy or trade in this important commodity because it's too important for us on a national security level or an economic level. No. You're going after another economic fallacy. Not that it doesn't exist. It just hasn't worked out as well as global trade, or at least somewhat global free trade. Go look up autarky and why it's not actually advantageous for you to be 100% solely reliant on what you can produce. You're going to lower everyone's standard of living, and you're pretty much just going to be Amish. You know, they have a lower standard of living because they don't trade much with the outside world. So our standard of living is a lot more luxurious and prosperous because of the trade that comes because we don't pursue autarky. Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, was testifying in front of Congress this morning. We're not testifying. He's just being interviewed. It's not like it's a court case. Man, I hate it when I repeat the sensational language of media, but I caught myself on that one. He made an interesting point here. So the first quarter GDP, gross domestic product, came in at 0.3 to the negative. So negative 0.3. And your Treasury Secretary told Congress this morning that he believes that number will be revised up. You know how there's revisions a month from now and then 2 months from now, and then there will be the final print coming up in the next GDP or the 2 GDP reports from now. They'll stop revising it eventually. So to explain it, here's just a clip of Scott Bessent talking to Congress this morning.
The acceptance of a recession in the short term. Do you believe we're in a recession now?
Congressman, I believe in data, and there is nothing in the data that shows that we are in a recession. As a matter of fact, the jobs report has surprised to the upside.
The job report, of course, less than the average for the Biden administration last in 2024. But the GDP went down this first quarter of the Trump administration. If we have a negative growth in the second quarter, which is, I suppose, the traditional definition of a recession, would you agree that we are in that recession of which the president speaks?
Congressman, these economic numbers are noisy and subject to substantial revision. So I, having looked at a detailed analysis, would believe that the first quarter GDP would be revised upward. And I would also, with regards to your remark about where we were last year, we were spending 6.7%. We had a 6.7% fiscal deficit, the largest we've ever had during peacetime or non-recessionary times. So the easy thing would be to keep spending, to keep the economy running on an unsustainable path of government spending.
So that's interesting now, because here's the ugly little truth. Scott was using some language in there that kind of put some gray area in it, and he has to. He was doing the right thing there, because nobody really knows what the economy is going to be in 6 months, because it could be drastically different depending on how these tariff talks work out. What if we don't work out a deal with China? Also in that hearing, Scott Bessent said we're having trade negotiations with 17 of our top 18 trade partners. So who's the 18th? That would be China right now, actually. Neither side will admit that they're talking, but someone's got to be talking to somebody else. And if these China deals get announced next week, the market has all the excuse in the world to shoot up. And I hope it does. That's the optimistic view. But if China wants to play hardball, if Xi Jinping can somehow quiet the dissent within his ranks and he wants to play the long game, or even if he gets replaced and the new guy comes in on a platform of resisting the evil American empire, this really could drag us into a recession. We might not get that number revised up. We might be followed with another quarter of negative GDP growth, would trigger the layman's definition of a recession here. So let me go ahead and tell you that anyone speaking with certainty and not using that language, like I believe that the data indicates that, not putting some sort of qualifier in it, they're trying to sell you something. They're speaking in hyperbole at this point. Because I'm a radio talk show host. I love putting my opinion down, and I love putting my stamp down. I can tell you right now the economy is going to be a rocket ship in 6 months. Or there's many other channels. I can tell you right now the economy is crashing and this guy is ruining the American pocketbook. Both of those people are lying to you. They don't know. They're cheerleading, or doom leading, whatever the opposite of cheerleading is. But you got to be very careful of the people that are speaking with absolute certainty in times like this. This is one of the parts of Donald Trump that makes him not a politician so much as a salesman. And, politicians do it too, but it's a sales job. Donald Trump will never tell you, in 6 months from now, the economy will be marginally better. No, it'll be great. It'll be magnificent. It'll be the most beautiful economy the world's ever seen. I know it. You know it. Everyone knows it. Believe me. That's what he says about everything. It's either the greatest in the world or the worst in the world. Hey, some actor criticized you. What's your response to that? He's terrible. He's fake. He's a fraud. He's washed up. His movies are terrible. He's not even a good actor. I know it. You know it. Everybody knows it. Believe me. Well, an actor said something nice about you. Oh, he's great. He's wonderful. He's a fantastic actor. Everyone loves him. I love him. Everyone loves him. You know it. I know it. Everyone knows it. Believe me. So, look, don't listen to the politicians. The guys in the media, this is our job to try and fish through that and give you a solid answer. I am just so disappointed with how many people are swearing that we're in a recession right now. Because, dude, you can't possibly know that. And it betrays logic that you're saying things with such certainty that can be turned around and used against you in 6 months. Because for all these people that are saying the economy's fantastic, or I'm sorry, the economy's crashing, we're going to have a montage that you're going to hear on the James Show before Christmas, rubbing it in these people's faces. Just like they said, Joe Biden is sharp as a tack, or Jussie Smollett got attacked, or that's Hunter Biden's laptop is Russian disinformation. We're gonna have another montage in about 6 months of all these people who are trying to doom talk the economy. But part of me thinks that maybe they really believe this. Maybe they're just saying whatever they think makes Trump look the worst. Or maybe they're writing fan fiction for the edification of the people who they've already been training like last 9-10 years to hate Trump. And here's your daily dose of Trump hatred. This disguised as economic news, disguised as nonpartisan, just objective reporting. All signs indicate that the economy is going to be terrible. All right, keep saying that. We'll hold you accountable, and we'll be making fun of you on the James Show about Thanksgiving or Christmas or so. that what you think? Do you trust this rebound? Do you think the stock market's about to take another dive, or do you think we're about to break new records? Because if these trade deals get announced, and that's a big if it's doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence, if these new trade deals get announced soon, we will be in an economic rocket ship. My next story is kind of a continuation and an update of a story we were talking about yesterday, and that's the student loan repayment. They've been on hiatus since COVID started, and so now after half a decade, people are going to start having them forced into paying their student loans. So you've been able to pay this entire time. You've been able to go ahead and make your monthly payment. Some people have paid off their student loans in the last 5 years. But there have been a lot of people who took that time to not get caught up, to not save up, to not readjust their finances. They were just going to coast as long as the taxpayers let them coast. And now we're not going to let them coast anymore. And so with the May 5th deadline passing yesterday, the edition that we had right after the James shows, someone was asking the Trump administration a direct question, are y'all going to start garnishing paychecks and stuff like that again? And they said, yeah, about the time we get through with some of this paperwork, as soon as this summer, people will start having checks withheld for past due student loan payments. And so the government can jump into your Social Security payments. They can jump into your tax return. And student loan debt is hard to discharge. It's been given a special protection that you can't even get rid of in bankruptcy. If you went to the moon, if Elon Musk made a colony on Mars and you went to Mars, they would still garnish your paycheck from planet Earth to go for your student loan. Now, there are some real concerns here for us that don't have student loans. A lot of these people who are in default could be around 5 million immediately, but after a few months, about 10 million people are on the cusp of default. That's 10 million people who are going to have less money to spend in your cash registers, to spend at your business, to go get, back to school clothes or go out to eat at a restaurant or whatever your business does. You're going to get less and less of that as time goes on until these people start getting it paid off. Now, is that going to be enough that it would wreck the economy? Doubt it. Some people are going to hurt. Maybe the bottle service at the back of the club is going to hurt for a few years until some of these people get caught up. But this is another one of those things that, yes, there will be a little bit of economic pain, but it's something that you have to go through in order to right the ship. You know what else is not cool? Having just debt that's hanging out there and no one's paying on it. So either we're eating that as the taxpayer or some private sector entity is eating that as the taxpayer. And so there's no free ride here. There's no real debt forgiveness. There's no student loan forgiveness. That burden is just shifted to someone else. So you're screwing over the people who are supposed to get paid in order to reward the people who were supposed to make the payments, but I just don't feel like it, or I can't do it. And a lot of those people have a legitimate complaint about how they can't make enough money to pay off their student loans. But their ire shouldn't be directed at the taxpayers. It should be directed at the institutions that took the money, the colleges, the universities. All right, real quick, breaking news here. Let me kind of interrupt what I'm doing because this kind of sounds like a big deal. India is attacking Pakistan. You'll hear more at the top of the hour news for younger people. That's when it's zeros. So at 4 o'clock, that's the top of the hour, next top of the hour. So at the 4 o'clock news, there will be more details on that. But the most populous country in the world, India, may now be in a hot war with their very populated adjacent neighbors here. And the scary part about this is they both have nuclear weapons. So, yeah, I'll be digging in on some of that. I'll be listening to Sean's newscast here, and I'll get updated with you and see if I can find anything else about that. But, yeah, that's breaking news. India is attacking Pakistan right now. And no, don't make jokes about it. I know you're tempted to make, well, who's going to do tech support or whatever. Not now. Let's make sure we're not starting off the first nuclear war, and then we'll make jokes. How about that? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.